How's it hanging, everybody? Welcome back to Tag Team, the Pokemon Trading Card Game's premier podcasting duo. My name is Riley Hulbert, joined as always by my good friend, Mr. JW Kriewall. JW, how's it going today?
Pretty good, Riley. How are you doing, man?
Good, and I liked your intro animation. It was like a for the visual listeners, the watchers on YouTube, you'll be rewarded for tuning in this time.
Yeah, I'm trying to do, like a pose maybe.
Yeah, you definitely hit him with the 200 V-Buck emote there.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that was exactly the vibe I was going for.
But how you doing? What's been going on?
Well, this week it's been all about taxes. All about taxes in the Kriewall household. Yeah, I don't know what more to say. This year I'm self-filing. So, trying to compile all of my documents and put that all into the tax software and then see whether I smile or cry.
Yeah, it's a fun game, and you either win or you lose. That's really what taxes all is.
I know. Many people are saying this. I mean, I got kids, so there's a nice little tax credit for that. Might think about having
Yeah.
another one.
Bonus.
Yeah, that's right. Bonus. I didn't realize how complicated it could be to have a nanny, because this is the first year we've ever had someone, taking care of the children. And so there's a lot that goes into that, which I didn't realize.
Interesting.
And so,
yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and anyway, you have to pay additional taxes. This was the thing that got me. You had to pay additional taxes on top of...
Because you're an employer or something?
Right, exactly.
Ah.
So, I know, pretty gross.
That's interesting, but sucks for you.
It definitely does. But I go by the book. I try to be as accurate as possible,
right.
And I try to compile all my receipts and, or at least know where to point an auditor in my, credit card. Yeah, in my defense on my credit card. So, I do play by the rules, as it were. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Generally good to do that with U.S. tax code. That's how they got Al Capone.
That is how they got him. So I don't want to suffer that same fate. So I make sure to keep my ducks in a row. Anyway, how's your week been, man?
It's been good. Yeah, our newest baking attempt was with pretzels, which went great.
Let's go.
And I also made a really nice loaf yesterday. I had a friend who was visiting from out of town through kind of a weird set of circumstances where they had moved away and did the pods. Are you familiar with the pods for moving?
Yeah, where you can store stuff.
They're they're parked on the street by you, and you fill it up, and then they'll put it in a storage unit until you're ready to move, and then they'll move it for you.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and unfortunately, they left their passport in their pod, with their furniture and stuff.
Not good.
And then they left town to live with their parents for a little bit before they fully moved. But then they were going to take a international vacation, so actually they needed their passport. Otherwise, I guess you could probably just leave it in there and get it back later. So they came back here to Madison to get that very shortly after moving. A week or two later, they were back. And through some chain of events, they needed to reschedule their return flight, but the prices were obscene, and so they rescheduled their return flight to actually be today. 2 months later, I booked a different return flight on another airline or something that was cheaper.
It's just so painful.
And so then they had this sitting return flight, so well, I guess I'll just visit now, and there's just absurd sequence of events, which is very fitting for this person, to be honest. But so it's nice though, we got to see them. They'd been moved away now for 2 months. They moved at the start of the year, and one of our closer friends in the area prior to them moving, so that was nice. And yeah, things are good overall. I can't complain. The weather is so close to being sprung here.
Yep.
The days are honestly pretty nice. It's just like fully breaking through, I think we're like a couple weeks out probably.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited because I'm eyeing up the
Tennis.
tennis courts.
That's
I'm eyeing up
right.
the tennis
I
courts,
knew
you
it.
know.
I knew it.
I think some of the more like public ones, the nets just were up all winter, you know, like the less maintained ones. But the school where we like to play after work, I don't think is strung up yet, and that's where we do like our weekly tennis. So I'm
Gotcha.
eyeing them up.
Okay. Well, hopefully they come soon.
My prediction is the start of April.
Okay. Over under April 5th.
Let's see, what day of the week is that? I'm gonna go over, but I think it's gonna be like the 7th, probably like that first full week.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to report back here in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, good stuff. Well, we got a jam-packed show for you all today. Once again, if you're listening on one of the podcasting platforms, we are releasing these episodes over on YouTube, so you can find us over there. Type in Tag Team Pokemon Podcast, and you can get the YouTube video from today's episode. But we have a few different topics. We have, of course, the Ace Trainer Rewards program that was just announced. We have some news and musings on Journey Together and that release, and some of the hype around the cards, and the prices of those cards. And then we're going to round out the episode talking a little bit about what our trainer Pokemon archetype and deck gimmick might be. So let's kick things off with a discussion about the Ace Trainer Rewards program.
Yeah, so for the folks at home who are unfamiliar, way back at the start of this season when they were announcing the changes to the format and the shift to the top 125 NA structure, they'd also teased that there would be some form of reward for like loyal players, basically. I don't remember the exact verbiage. JW, I know you were trying to find it before the cast, but it was along the lines of like, if you are a loyal and engaged player, like there will be some
You're going to get rewarded. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was it, for a significant chunk of the season. Now we're in the kind of latter third of the season. And finally, we learned about the Ace Trainer Rewards program. And so it's pretty simple, actually, in execution. It's just a 1 CP bar threshold. I believe it's 200. Yeah, 200 CP. And if you cross that, you get a promo card. The promo cards in question are Celebratory Fanfare with a Play Pokemon stamp. These are cards that have never been released in North America or like outside of Japan. These are cards they give as like promo cards in Japan for like participating in their circuit, basically. So, it's like a fun promotional artwork, vaguely similar to like getting a Champions Festival, but it's a lower bar, so implicitly less exciting.
Right.
200 CP is not a crazy amount. 200 CP shows that you're like probably engaged with the game, but not like competitively like driving towards the top.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, it certainly shows an interest, at least on a local level, right? It should be fairly easy for any skilled player to, if they never even go to a regionals, accrue somewhere around that 200 CP threshold just by attending locals. So I think that's probably when they made that decision, it's like, okay, how do we reward certain players? Even that player that goes to locals has the shot at this card.
Yeah, and in some ways, I think that makes it an appropriate CP bar too. It's like it's a good way to, and it's something to shoot for as well. Like over the years on the cast, we've always said there should be something to shoot for that isn't just the World Championship, particularly in these years where it's like a number of players as opposed to a threshold of points. It's nice to have something else that you can aim for. And what I like about the 200 CP personally is for the people who are going to like their local tournaments, maybe driving around the state with their friends. and maybe they won one or two regionals that are within driving of them, like this is like a perfectly calibrated threshold in my opinion for like those types of players to be rewarded for
Yeah.
engagement with the game.
And I read somewhere that there's about 5,000 to 6,000 players currently at that 2,000 CP threshold. So a relatively, a relatively unique card, right? By Pokemon standards, they're printing billions of cards every year.
Yeah.
Figure in English, or this is, I think, North America, there's 5,000 to 6,000, and obviously there will be, potential localizations for other regions, but you're looking at a fairly exclusive card. Whether or not it's going to be particularly valuable, we don't really know. But another great thing about the card, you mentioned like the artwork. It's very busy. Have the 2024 edition up on the screen right now, and there is just a lot going on. If you look at any of these arts, they have probably 6 to 10 Pokemon, obviously featuring Pikachu. Everyone's very happy. There's a very celebratory style to the artwork. So it does feel unique for a promo card.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's fun. It's just a fun promo card. That's really all it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't hate it on the face of it, at least personally. Now, JW, there's definitely been, chatter and such about the nature of this reward and people's satisfaction or lack thereof with it. Where do you kind of fall on that spectrum?
Well, they have done, I mean, they had a template program in the form of the professor rewards. So for those that are not familiar with how the professor rewards work, the professors accrue points throughout the year based on the number and level of tournament that they judge, or that they're an organizer for their involvement in any of these tournaments. And so they can go on to a judge marketplace and spend their points on the rewards that they would like to receive. And, by and large, they have, I don't know, 4 to 10 choices. Like they can get promo cards, or they can get stamped energy, or they can get play mats, or certain little trinkets. Nothing wildly expensive, but they have choices and they have options, and if they accrue more points, they can buy more things through the marketplace. And so I was envisioning something like that coming to the players, right? Where they may offer multiple different things, or they may have multiple different thresholds, right? So at 100 points, you get this promo card. At 200 points, you get this promo card. Or at 300 points, you get a playmat. At 400 points, you get et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of how I envisioned this program, at least when it was first announced, to work. Now, that's obviously not the case, and I'm sure there are, a number of reasons for that we will never know. But unfortunately, what this ultimately, what I take away from it as a player, I'm very happy. I mean, they could have just given us nothing, and that's that. But this program was announced at the beginning of the year, and like you said, they kind of officially announced the Ace Trainer program reward system, 200 points, toward the last third of the year. So this almost feels like it was like a salvaged program. Like they maybe had some bigger plans at the start, and then there were some logistical issues, and then things fell apart, and then they had to come up with something, and this was just what they came up with. It doesn't feel like it had a lot of planning behind it, and feels kind of haphazard, just with the nature of the announcement at the beginning of the year, and then a final reveal that's slightly underwhelming towards the latter third of the year. Because if you're looking at this at the start of the year, and you have no idea of what that threshold might be, maybe you make different decisions on the number of tournaments that you attend and where you go. Now towards the latter third of the year, if you decided not to go to your local regional, well, it's too late to reverse that decision. So I don't know, that's just kind of like a
yeah, I
initial reaction,
and have different reactions to others.
Yeah,
I gotta say, having a teaser announcement followed by no word for like 6+ months, followed by a lackluster announcement is like classic Pokemon in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
that's just like so on the nose that if you've been playing for as long as we have and like didn't expect that exact scenario,
Yeah.
like I'm kind of disappointed in you, to be honest. But I don't know, like the promo card for a CP threshold is almost exactly what I was expecting from the early season teaser. What I think is frustrating is some of what you're saying of like they by the time they announced this, there's only a handful of like major tournaments left in the season, and I feel like the steam left a lot of people's sails really early in this season, especially with that top 125. And
Mhm.
so like it feels like if this was here earlier, maybe people would be more interested in like staying engaged with the game, And I know the tournaments are still generally bigger than ever, but it's almost like a little bit of a turn to me. It feels like where a lot of people are really excited and then kind of got burnt out, and new people are coming in, they're really excited, um, and maybe the people who are staying are less invested in like the CP type stuff to start with. Maybe they're more interested in just like going to the Pokemon Con, which is what the regionals kind of are.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Mhm.
that's not to read into it specifically one way or the other. I personally just wish that the announcement was there earlier, so expectations were clearer from the start. That's all I'm really trying to say here, because then
Yeah.
people could make informed decisions about what they want to do with their weekends and their season.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And this is certainly there's logistical challenges, right, with incorporating some kind of program like this, right? You have to recognize the players that had above this threshold. You have to mail out all these promos. You have
Yeah,
to, there's certainly like I'm not downplaying, the added difficulty that the Pokemon Company International is bringing upon themselves by enacting a program like this. And give them, like, you have to start somewhere, right? So a program like this, certainly there are going to be these challenges that they have to work through, but expansion of the program is something that I foresee for future years, especially if they continue to keep the top X format for world championship invitations, as I
yeah.
surmise they will.
I mean, if nothing else, I think it'd be fun to have like the stamp change. If nothing else, right? Like at certain thresholds, have like the stamp progressively get cooler, or like call out like your specific threshold that you crossed, or like this is the silver threshold, this is the gold threshold, this is the platinum threshold. Like I don't know, something like that could be cool. Um, I will say another whiff by the program. Due to logistical constraints, trainers in Latin America are
Yep.
currently ineligible for the ACE trainer program.
Yep.
Stay tuned for updates in future seasons. Like, what? That seems ridiculous. And I know you're just saying like that is logistically challenging, and I empathize with that. But it feels like things like this should be developed over like months and months and years, potentially like a year in advance. They kind of know they're going to do this and like have to figure it out and execute on it. And so this feels like a major whiff to me. And the Latin America fan base is like so impassioned about the game that it's really disappointing to me to see them not get recognized.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I'm right there with you. It always, I don't know kind of the relation between a program like this and any of like how tournaments are run, but I just always feel like I'm hearing, kind of year in and year out, players aren't receiving promos from tournaments, or, in some cases, like you have to file, well, I know that you have to file for prize winning differently at tournaments if you're not from South America, and there's just like a whole bunch of like logistical snafus that seem to happen surrounding Pokemon in those countries, and yeah, you're right in that it's a bit of a whiff, and pretty disappointing, I'm sure, for those players.
Yeah. So, and obviously like a lot of these discussion points have been had, particularly around Latin America, which is again huge disappointment. I think overall, like it's a cool program to have, and I do feel like something like this is somewhat necessary if they're going to stick to their guns on the top 125 stuff. And if you, for those of you who like are curious on our specific opinions on the cast about this, um, ultimately like this feels like it was kind of the inevitability, right? To like have that hard cutoff just to constrain
Yeah.
logistically.
Well,
How
it was
Worlds
getting
is
out of
handled.
control. Yeah, it was getting out of control, unfortunately.
So like this, it was a logical step for Pokemon, and really for a tournament like the World Championship, it does kind of make sense to like have the top players in the world, like whoever those players are, like the top players in the world come. So it's nice to have something to fill that void as well. And I do hope they continue to expand on it in future years. Like if nothing else, this lays the groundwork for them to expand on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, very interesting thing. Very interesting system. Hopefully, we do see some enhancements, but better than nothing. I know, obviously, I've hit the 200 threshold. How about you, Riley? You're gonna try to hit it at NAIC,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, I might, I might go to a few locals between now and then, but
Sure.
it's got I'm gonna be really busy the next few months. Actually, I have a major project that's going live in April and May, so
Gotcha.
it's gonna take a lot of my effort.
Oh yeah, for sure. It never stops. So, all right. Well, Ace Trainer program, very cool. Now let's switch over to another program from the Pokemon Company that is just the general printing of product and cards.
Love that program, dude.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah. Journey Together release weekend was this prior weekend, right? I know they had the obviously a bunch of pre-releases. Andrew would probably be here to talk if he cared enough, would be here to talk about the big full grip midnight release of Journey Together. A lot of hype surrounding this set. I feel like I'm seeing more than ever players showing off pulls, going to these pre-release tournaments, and it just seems like there's extra frenzy around Journey Together. I don't know if you felt that way as well. I don't know if you what kind of insight you have into
It's interesting.
this first
like,
weekend of Journey Together.
It is very interesting, right? Because I feel like I have noticed that, but I don't. Maybe this is me personally. I don't feel like the set is like dramatically more interesting than any other set. Like, I think that it's exciting to have the trainers Pokemon, and it lends itself well to like look at my cool like End Zoroark type of thing. I don't know. Like the set itself doesn't excite me personally that much, and maybe that's just that like competitive angle though. Regardless, my like local store here in Madison, they sold out of all of their pre-release kits for the entire weekend, like in one shot, basically on their first run of a pre-release. And normally they run a couple over the course of the weekend. So that was pretty shocking to me. And I don't know how much of that was like product allocation versus like player demand, you know, because both of those things pull on each other there. But yeah, the product was flying off the shelves, at least at my locals. And the pre-release prices on the booster boxes are insanely high, like already climbing over $200, which is, that's what you see for like collector hype sets, weeks or months down the road type of thing as they progressively get more sparse on the shelves. So now granted, it is still pre-release. So like some of that could be like that pre-release inflation type of thing. Typically you don't see that as much with the booster boxes as like the individual cards. But yeah, the set is super hyped, and it does lend itself really well to shareability. I think just like it's really fun. The trainers Pokemon, just conceptually, it's really fun. Especially like if you connect with the trainer and the Pokemon, like you like both of those characters,
Right.
It makes it for a really exciting moment, right, to pull those cards and to have that like experience. So yeah, it makes sense in some ways that it's a set that people are really getting hyped about.
Yeah, it is crazy what the collector side of things has done to the I don't know, general Pokemon card ecosystem. You mentioned the climbing booster boxes. This is release weekend, $230 I'm seeing online and at local shops for Journey Together boxes, which is, to put that kind of in context, people were complaining a bit about, Surging Sparks at release being about, 130 to 160 from stores. And that was like, oh man, that's really high, because generally speaking, you could, at a local card shop, you could probably get a booster box for like 100, 110, 120 for the longest time, maybe even sub 100 if you had the connections. And so Surging Sparks really signaled, a departure from that, where you had an influx of, just card opening content creators. You had all the hype surrounding that. You had these people that were, flipping and, crypto bros and any kind of spin you want to put on that, any kind of story you want to put on that. But there was just like elevated pricing at release for Surging Sparks. And then that grew to where we see it today, which is, at that 230 level, but it didn't, per booster box, but we didn't quite see that on release. It was still tempered somewhat. And now we're having the Journey Together boxes that are hitting 230 on release weekend. And who knows where they go in the immediate future. There's generally, of course, like a lot of hype early for the product, and then it'll take a dip, and then it'll, go back up and probably level off for a bit before climbing as the set goes out of print. But that 230 on, for a box right now, if I were to go down to my local card shop, is like wild and really unheard of. I mean, this is new territory. This is not something I've been playing for 15 years. Like, this is not something that I've seen before.
Yeah, and to me, it almost feels like, in part, the set is exciting, and then in part, like, we have still this big wave of, like, the TikTokification of Pokemon cards and, like, the Whatnot. Getting a lot of ads on YouTube for Whatnot. And so you have, like, that wave. We're coming fresh off of Prismatic Evolutions, which I think people were... which was like a big like scalper phenomenon type of thing happening again, and people were also kind of disappointed about the pull rates in Prismatic Evolutions. I can personally attest I did not have great experience with pulling out of Prismatic Evolutions, and so I think people are also just riding that wave and like almost carrying over their disappointment with Prismatic into like, okay, here's a new like exciting set that has like exciting characters in it, and like the pull rate's probably better than this like crappy promo set,
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it too, is like kind of that ecosystem that led up to this.
And it's crazy too, I think, just from a player standpoint. Like it feels like as good a time as ever to be a player, because they're printing more cards, more booster packs are being opened than ever before. More people want to get these products, but they have no real use for collectors have no real use for cards outside of the secret rares or the chases, whatever they happen to be going for their collection. And you combine that fact, right, of what I just referred to, of like all this product, all these cards that are unwanted by collectors, with the fact that many decks in the post-rotation format that will utilize these cards don't in fact use a lot of these cards, right? You're looking at a lot of kind of established archetypes that maybe gain a couple of cards from the new set, similar to how Prismatic, impacted the format. There were a couple of cards that impacted a couple of decks, and certainly we have whole new archetypes that are created from this main set. But by and large, you could take, a deck that you played last format, take out all the things I rotated, maybe add a couple new cards, and you're good to go. I'm thinking about things like Archaludon. I'm thinking about things like Dragapult, something like the Eevee deck, right? Like there's a lot of decks that just poured over essentially 1-to-1 without any real impact from the newest release. So very interesting confluence of supply and demand here. I think it'll be a great set for the players.
Yeah. I think, really, it's not a big player set in the first place. The Journey Together, the trainers Pokemon have not been making a big impact in Japan. So, all power to players that are really excited to crack open these packs, and the couple of cards that are really playable will probably end up quite cheap as a result.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to want that Lily's Clefairy. I think that's looking like the big one for players.
Yeah, that's a clear tech into like into Gardevoir, obviously, but also into the Crispin box type of decks. Just that 2 energy attack cost and efficiently wiping Dragapults off the board, like pretty much as good as you can get in that department.
Yep. I mean, really anything that plays Psychic Energy, I feel like is going to play this. You talked about Guard of War, talk about the Terror Box, talk about Flareon, like the Evolution deck. I mean,
yeah,
there's a few different things that. And then I've even seen like straight Clefairy box decks, right? That are
I've seen that too.
Trying to leverage the Lily's Pearl tool, which really really interesting stuff. So we'll have to see on that. But speaking of the new sets, there was a new set released. Like we're starting to get new arts from the Heatwave Arena set, which is going to be our destined rivals, the Team Rocket set. I wanted to take a second to look over those arts as well, because there are some new ones that we didn't see last time we talked. I know one of the new cards is the Ethan's Typhlosion. That looks fascinating. You have Ethan himself, or colloquially known as Gold, and his Typhlosion just surrounded by, I don't know, what would you call that? Energy, flames, or
not really sure what that stuff is, but it's cool looking.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Makes for a really interesting card. You also have, in contrast of that high action card, you have the Misty Psyduck, which should be a popular card for collectors and potentially even players as well. I've seen some deck lists with the Misty's Gyarados that discards the top 7. You discard any Misty's Pokemon and you do more damage. Well, this Psyduck fits perfectly into that with its ability to put itself back into the deck. So really interesting art there as well.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Ethan's Adventure. I was talking about how I really wanted a Pichu illustration rare, and I think this is the closest I'm probably going to get.
This is sick. Adventure. You did call it last week. You were talking about that, and I think this art is awesome. I think this might be the best art in the set. I think it's really fun.
I think it is really good.
The cutie Pokemon.
I was really hoping for a Pichu focused illustration art, and this card isn't even Pichu, right? It is the supporter, so it makes sense that Ethan is the focus because it's his card. But man, it would have been awesome if the secret art was the Pichu itself. But regardless, happy to see Pichu in the limelight, especially after going over a decade, almost a decade and a half without a new card. So Pichu definitely deserves it.
Wild. It's like the pseudo full art treatment for that Pichu.
Yeah, I think it's as close as you're gonna get with Pichu for now.
Yep. Of course, we knew about the Cynthia's Garchomp that was revealed, and when we took a look at that last week, we knew about the Ethan's Ho-Oh that was revealed as well. But what we didn't see were the gold versions of these two cards. So Ethan's Ho-Oh and the Cynthia's Garchomp, they have the Pokemon in the front with the trainer kind of I don't know, behind. I don't really
like a JoJo stand behind them.
Yeah, I dislike the proportion choice. I understand it. It makes sense. I don't know how else they would really do this other than putting the trainer at the same perspective of the Pokemon. It just feels a little disjointed to me, these gold secret rares.
I think it's fine. It's
it's unique.
They're watching over them almost.
Yeah, it's unique. Not my favorite card design of all time. And speaking of not my favorite card design, I think the Arven's Mabastiff has to be one of the worst. One of the worst. I think I'll even go so far as to say one of the worst cards that I've seen.
Dude,
it's like
it's
a
just
horrible
a big old dog.
art. But it's gross looking.
That's just what Mabastiff looks like, man. I'm sorry,
it looks awful, dude. It's just like a gross looking Pokemon.
Dude. Yeah, that's just how Mabastiff looks. I'm sorry.
I don't think there are any defenders.
I'm not. I don't know.
You sound like a defender.
It's just a big old dog. Who cares?
But it doesn't even look like a dog. It looks like. Okay, you know what it
Yes,
looks
it
like?
does.
It looks like a grandfather got like a hex placed on him, and then by a witch or something,
Dude,
and then he
there are
had to
dogs
turn
that look
into.
like that.
No, there are not that ugly.
There are some ugly dogs out there, bro. And I don't know. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that offensive. I don't love it, but
It's like grotesque.
also I've had enough of Arvin anyway. I've seen enough Arvin. Played in every deck before of.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait till he rotates for sure.
And you were also hating on the Yan Mega, weren't you?
Oh
It
yeah, the
was,
on Mega looks pretty trash as well. I don't see it. I really don't see it. I think this set should not go for as much as other sets surrounding it. But I guess I don't know. Maybe that's a bad take because I have purchased. Well, I'm trying to purchase a significant amount of this set because we don't even know the Rockets Pokemon yet, right? This is
right.
Destined Rivals. We have seen half of what this set is, the Heat Wave Arena, and then there's presumably the other mini set or half set in Japan will contain all of the Team Rocket.
Dude, you're chilling.
Pokemon.
Yeah, it's got Cynthia and Team Rocket in it. An
I know.
instant chase set.
I know.
Instant
I think
chase
so.
set.
I think so. Which is unfortunate
Plus,
because
it's got the Giga Chad Judge. Look at that! Look at that art rare of the Judge, man.
he is crazy for sure.
Dude, I like this Judge. The more I see him, the more I like him.
Yeah, this art is better than the other art that was revealed.
No, I like the reg art too. It's this Judge in general. He's sick.
You're vibing.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
I like his multicolored fit.
Yeah. All right. I'll get behind that then. I'm coming around. You made a good argument. A couple other fun arts. We got the Misty's Lapras. I love that as a card. We got the Electrike. Pretty mid on that. The cutest Rotom you'll ever see. Love this kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like
I feel
chibi.
like we've seen this kind of Rotom before. Like
When?
a Rotom art very similar to this.
When?
Dude. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Rotom EX, like alt art. Or Rotom V, sorry, alt art. It just kind of gives similar vibes to me.
I don't know. This one's a lot more light.
It is, but it's similar vibes. Like
Okay.
Rotom in a messy room.
Yeah, in any case. So some fun things going on in this next set. I am stoked, I think, to see what they do with the Team Rockets Pokemon. That's, I think, really going to pull things together for me.
Yeah, I think they're going to be evil, probably.
You think so?
I think they're probably going to have some dark energies involved there, if I had to guess.
That'd be crazy.
Yep.
That'd be crazy. Yep, indeed. Well, I guess let's go on to our final topic. I want to ask you, Riley, if you had a trainer Pokemon archetype. I mean, we've seen like the Hops Pokemon that kind of rehash the Buzzrock archetype from a number of years ago. There's, I don't know, what are some of these newly released archetypes? I guess like the Misty is kind of like, I mean, we've seen cards like this, like there was a Gyarados that had a similar kind of discarding effect from years past. We have that we've already talked about, the Cynthia's, Garchomp and Roserade being a clone of Fluffy Chomp. So Riley, what would your trainer Pokemon gimmick be, and which Pokemon would be included?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. To be honest, I initially proposed this prompt like 2 months ago as a future keepsake, and I didn't put a ton of thought into what my actual answer would be until today. But I think I got my answer. And so, kind of rolling back the clock to when I was starting in the Pokemon TCG, the very first deck I ever played, and I was really committed to for a long time, was Darkrai EX and like through a variety of iterations with like the dragons and the max elixirs, and I tried to make the Goodnight Babies thing work. But I don't think like the turbo energy is like really the style that I ended up sticking to over the years. Like the deck that I feel like really defined my growth as a player, what was Decidueye Vileplume, and that was like Decidueye in general was like the card that I really resonated with, was the sniping and the like calculated approach. And the Vileplume deck was kind of what catapulted me to like learn how to improve at the game with my sequencing. I won a lot of league, or like didn't win a ton because I was still not that good at the time, but I did really well at a lot of league cups, a lot of like second places at league cups. And then my first ever cup win the following season, or the first one that season, was with like Decidueye Zoroark. And then I continued to iterate on like Decidueye. And so I think it has to be like a Rowlet Decidueye line with some sort of like sniping approach to it. So my thought is, and Rowlet's also one of my favorite Pokemon. The Rowlet shelf is just out of frame, but you could, for the watchers, you can see the Rowlet Pichu shelf. So Rowlet and Pichu are my favorite Pokemon. So it's got to be the Rowlet line that actually evolves, and then a baby Pichu. But I'm thinking for the Pichu, we do something kind of similar to the Neo Pichu, where it like spreads damage for no energy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
to like every
have,
was it like it was like every Pokemon with a Poke
with
Power?
a power. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So like something kind of like that spreads damage, like a more flying flip type of deal, and then a Decidueye that does some sort of sniping type of business, and maybe it's just Featherhair Arrow rehashed for the modern age, or maybe it has like some twist or something. But that's the style that I just have the most fun playing. Is, you know, you're figuring out your roadmap. You know, you're not just like hitting into the active. You're doing creative plays all over the board and like building up to like your massive win turn, which makes it really feel like I should play more Dragapult as I'm saying this out loud. But like, Decidueye was really that first swing into that territory for me. So it's got to be that for me.
Man, what fun! Man, that was quite an archetype. I never played that to any major tournaments, but that was always a deck that I remember playing against very fondly. Like I felt like anytime I was playing against the Decidueye deck at any point in its life cycle, like it was really fun to play against, right? Whether it was the Decidueye Vileplume version, or like Decidueye with Alolan Ninetales, or
I love the Decidueye Ninetales deck. It was like one of my favorite decks ever to play.
Yeah.
That was like released since I started playing. It was one of my favorite decks ever to play.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, really, I just remember having a lot of really fun games where it's like, okay, I, have to make a read on my opponent. Like, do I think they can get 2 Decidueye up this turn? Or okay, do I think that off of this end that they're going to draw into, the pieces that they need to get an Alolan Ninetales off and snipe my only Pokemon, or what do I think they're gonna do, like Acerola? Like I just always remember having a lot of fun games against those archetypes. And then of course the Decidueye with the GX attack was crazy, man.
Yeah, just getting those couple resources back. It was really interesting with the Ninetales too, because like you could use either, and it was kind of like picking the right GX attack for the game, because you had the Ninetales like moving the damage off of it, or you could get the resources back with the Decidueye. And like the answer wasn't always obvious every game, which is another thing that I really like.
GX attacks mattered.
Yeah. Well, GX attacks always mattered.
But like back when like I feel like the V-Stars, like every deck is tailored to just do like one V-Star ability or one V-Star attack. Like there's never really a choice. Right.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most decks in their life cycle only did really one GX attack, but I mean, there was that deck that you had the options. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, with the Decidueye Ninetales deck. And again, it wasn't always obvious, which is another thing I really liked, is that like, maybe I really do want to move the damage off this Ninetales right now, but I know like later down the game that I need to grab those resources back out of the discard with Decidueye, so I can't move that damage, even though it's like the obvious play of this turn.
Right.
So fun, man.
Yep. Very nice. Well, I was thinking about this, and I was like, the obvious choice would be, to do the a rehash of Mew and Genesect, and just substitute substitute my favorite Pokemon.
The Mew
You know,
year. Yeah.
that would be the.
I was kind of thinking of something like that too, because my other favorite thing is to draw cards.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep. Yep. But I think that I want to go kind of a different route. My favorite Pokemon growing up were Dragonite and Blossom. I really liked Blossom.
Blossom. I didn't know that actually. I knew Dragonite.
Yeah, that's like probably my number 2. I think I just attribute it to the like first Pokemon plush that I ever received, which is like it's very nice. Like I just remember it like holding up very well. This Blossom that I got, I don't know, for Christmas or a birthday or something, but it was like, parents didn't really know what to get. They knew I liked Pokemon, but what do you?
Blossom was the winner.
Yes, Blossom was the winner, and so I always just thought that was cute. And then obviously being a Kanto Johto, almost exclusively video game player, Blossom is a fun new addition to Gen 2. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, okay, what are some grass like two stage 2 Pokemon in some kind of archetype, like there's a grass Pokemon, something else. And I was thinking about the Meganium with super growth. I was like, okay, that could be a Blossom ability.
Yeah.
And then and Dragonite's the other stage 2. So there was a deck 6 years ago, 7 years ago maybe at this point. Jeez.
It would have been
there's
6.
Quick ripening herb on the Meganium is an ability that allows you to play a stage 2 onto a basic. So it's essentially like an ability rare candy. And you could do it on the turn that you play the basic down. So you could just like out of nowhere come up with stage 2 Pokemon.
That card was so sick.
It was really cool. And there was a rogue deck that relied on this Meganium and also Greninja. And so there was this Greninja. It was like you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon. You may put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. This was the GX. And then it had an attack, Haze Slash, that shuffled it back into the deck. So normally that would be a pretty awful attack, but you could attack for a single energy card. There was a Prism Star energy card.
Super boost energy, dude.
Super boost energy that provided 4 colored energy on a stage 2. If you had, multiple stage 2 in play, I think it was 3 or more stage 2 in play. Yep. So you are repeatedly sniping by just evolving the Greninja GX. You're evolving for free because you have the Meganium quick ripening herb ability, and then you're attacking for 110 with the Greninja GX, and then optionally shuffling that Greninja back into the deck to either, you had damage on it from a hit that it had taken, or, you wanted to reuse the ability. So I found that fascinating. And then the Greninja also had
too.
You also had Swampert for draw. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So that was a discard draw 3. So, okay, now I'm trying to think like what would be that third stage 2? What's my next favorite stage 2? Maybe like a Crobbit?
Yeah.
A Crobbit?
Yeah,
Draw
Crobbit could be cool.
Yeah, Crobbit. Or, because I'm trying to think. It would have to be a stage 2. Like, I do really like a good Noibit. But that's a basic, obviously. The Noibit. I'll have to get back on that. I hadn't really considered the Swampert part, so
Swampert was an important part. He was an important player.
But I'll say, if the Greninja ports over to the Dragonite, the Meganium ports over to the...
I like it. The invigorating dance. I can picture it now. The invigorating dance.
I know. Be sick.
That would be awesome. That was such a cool deck. It really was.
There really hasn't been anything like it.
No, it was such a creative like concept,
Hmm.
and it was so much fun to play.
Yes.
So much fun. I played a ton of that deck on TCGO.
That's definitely a ladder and chill deck.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Like it was a deck that you could just really enjoy playing on the
Uh-huh.
ladder, you know. And just TCGO ladder was more fun to play in general, snappier.
Mm.
So
Back in the day.
back in the day when we had it good.
When we had a real client. Nah, just kidding. They are getting better. They are getting better. We'll see how, how Journey Together breaks the client in new and interesting ways this time.
Well, it's the trade-off for not having to drop like $200 on the client every couple months.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. So, in any case, that is the episode for today. We hope you guys enjoyed listening. If you are an audio-only listener and you want to leave a comment on your favorite platform, Spotify, Google, Apple, etc., please do that. Leave a rate and review. If you're over on YouTube, please subscribe. We're trying to build the YouTube platform as well. Hit subscribe, hit like so other people can see this content. If you want to catch more of the content that we create, you can head on over to x.com. I am at Real John Walter, and Riley is at Smiles with Riles. Of course, you can catch the podcast at Tag Team Pokemon.
Thank you all so much for listening for another fun week, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See ya.